Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here. My name's Leah Nord. I'm the Director of Workforce Strategies and Inclusive Growth at the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. It is nice to have business at the table, and I have been asked some very specific questions. I'm not sure I'll get there in the opening remarks because I wanted to set the stage first. Just a few words about the Canadian Chamber just to start. I find many people know of us but don't really appreciate who we are and what we do. We call ourselves the voice of business. We represent 200,000 businesses across the country, the majority of which, 98% of them, are small and medium-sized enterprises. This means they have under 500 employees, and in the vast, vast, vast majority of cases, that's under 100 employees. SMEs employ 90% of Canada's workforce, and for example, between 2013 and 2017, they were responsible for 85% of the job growth across the country. The Canadian Chamber is a membership organization. We have our 450 boards of trade and local chambers across the country. We also have 500 corporate members, and also a category of industry and association members, which includes the likes of CICAN, Universities Canada, Polytechnics Canada. I'll give a nod to my tax here as well. And there's a number of individual universities and colleges across the country who are our members as well. In this post-election period, our CEO, our President and CEO, Param Beatty, has been talking a lot and speaking of the priorities that we see for the future, or now, this government. And there are three main categories: taxation, regulation, and then one that's dear to my heart is a skills agenda. We did have something called the Platform for Prosperity that had a very strong skills agenda and a set of recommendations, concrete recommendations. Those recommendations talked about training and skills. They talked about the importance of work-integrated learning, for example. They talked about K-12 curriculum and some changes we'd like to see, as well as the importance of incorporating the Indigenous population into the workforce, both in an urban and rural sense. I'm going to just say a few words about some trends from the business perspective that we see from the workforce that I know others will build on. There's three main trends, and you'll see a 3x3 theme that I've sort of picked up on here. But the first is Industry 4.0, what we call the evolving economy, and the constantly changing skills requirements. This discussion of the future of work began about 5 years ago now, I think, and it's the report I call that shall not be named, that said by 2020, 50% of the jobs would be taken over by robots, right? And we're about, 2 or 3 weeks away, so I think we're pretty safe. And not to be glib, right, because the pendulum is swinging back a little bit, but we can't rest on our laurels as well. OECD numbers say that in OECD countries, 14% of jobs are already highly susceptible to automation, and another 32% are expected to be transformed. Within this discussion, and I think it'll lend in nicely as we move forward, is what we see as the importance of what we call durable skills. We take it from D2L in the CICAN report. I do not like using, I keep saying, otherwise known as soft skills, foundational skills, human skills. I'd like to get rid of that nomenclature because I don't think it's mutually exclusive. The technical skills versus the soft versus the hard, I think they're interchangeable. If you want, I can give you all sorts of data of surveying employers who are looking for these sorts of skills above a lot of others: communications, problem solving, adaptability, leadership. And then in the skills ecosystem, there's just three other quick points. The importance of moving STEM outside of traditional sectors, rail, into more traditional sectors, actually. Rail, mining, forestry, and manufacturing. Second point is the increased importance of entrepreneurship as a skill in the future of work. And the third piece, which we will probably not get into today, but we always love to give a nod to the skilled trades, and the importance of them in our economy and moving forward. The second main point, or the change in the ecosystem, and I'll let colleagues speak to it quite a bit, is the need for a massive culture change in Canada, and the importance of lifelong learning. And we can't speak about this without skilling, upskilling, reskilling, round-skilling, skilling, and the constant need. And there's been a lot of discussion about this, but we at the Chamber think that this is the real nut to crack. We think it's critical for the future of the Canadian workforce and the key to the country's prosperity. I mean, to state the obvious, gone are the days when you go to secondary school, you may or may not go to post-secondary, you get a job, single company, and then you retire at 65 with full benefits. It's simply not going to happen. And that leads into our third trend when we look at it from the business perspective, and this is the rise of the gig economy. Platform economy. In the past month or so, I've also seen it referred to as the click economy. Again, not all gloom and doom. There are issues. I'm not trying to minimize those, but I think you hear it called precarious work and contingent workforce, but arguably those in the public sector who are full-time employed feel precarious as well. We don't think that the economy is that black and white, and we think we need some definitions around it. But what it is fundamentally doing is changing the nature of work, where participants are both employers and self-employed, task project-based work, multiple employers, off-site locations, which actually has a lot of potential, we think, for rural and remote communities. And it begs a whole series of questions around labor standards and practices, including collection of taxes, health coverage, benefits, portability of benefits. And that's sort of how we see these key trends. We've got some good examples and some recommendations for the way forward here as well, but I'll sort of leave it at that and set the stage from the business perspective.